Week 17 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few wide receivers I could drop this week. The first guy, Chase Claypool of the Chicago Bears. So Claypool, he really hasn't played over the last few weeks here. In this Bear offense, they don't throw the ball really to wide receivers anyway. So Claypool traded to the Bears at the NFL trade deadline. But pretty much he's been a bust so far for this Bear team since they got him at the deadline. So the last few games here for him, Week 11 at Atlanta, 2 catches, 11 yards. Week 12 at the Jets, 2 catches, 51 yards. And Week 13 versus Green Bay, 5 catches, 28 yards, a fumble loss. So he sat out Week 15 and 16 here. And even if he comes back in Week 17 with a good matchup with the Lions, that give up the third most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season, I don't see Claypool really doing much. And right now, he's just owned in way too many leagues at 41%. So this week here, if you're still in it and you got him on your team, there's no reason to hold on to him. And you drop him this week. The next wide receiver I look to drop this week here, it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Valdes-Scantling, he's been on the list a lot, but another guy, he owns 41% of fantasy leagues. He'll have a 9-10 point game, then he'll go to 3-4 points, and then back every other week he's been putting up decent numbers, but nothing great. Week 13 at Cincy, 2 catches, 71 yards. Week 14 at Denver, a catch, 20 yards. Week 15 at Houston, 3 catches, 26 yards, a touchdown. And Week 16 versus Seattle, 2 targets, but he had the old goose egg, not doing anything. So Valdes-Scantling, we've known this throughout his career. One big game, disappear for a couple games. Then he has that other game again where he has big numbers, and then a lot of people go out to the wire and pick him up, but that just hasn't been the case here for Valdes-Scantling this season. For the most part, 9-10 fantasy points he's been maxing out at. And he's a wide receiver right now. You don't want on your team. And next season as well, I think this Chief team will get a receiver in the draft once again, or even sign someone in free agency. But right now, Valdes-Scantling is a drop this week. In the third and final wide receiver I look to drop this week, Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. So Burks came back finally after a vicious concussion versus the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 13. So he sat out for 2 weeks, and he came back in Week 16 and put in a dud performance. 1 carry, 15 yards, and 2 targets for no catches in that one. So right now, pretty tough matchup with the Dallas Cowboys coming up in Week 17. He's got Malik Willis, a quarterback who pretty much he don't look to throw the ball. He just a lot of replay options and running the football, and that's what I think this Titan team is going to try to do for the remainder of the season, especially here in Week 17 versus the Cowboys. They're going to try to control the clock with Henry and Willis running, and I just don't see how Burks plays into the equation in this ball game. And even if he does make a few plays, he's not a guy you're going to trust. And I would drop him this week unless you're in a keeper league, but all redraft leagues, he's a drop, and that's a few wide receivers I look to drop here for Week 17 of the fantasy football season.